Hey, this is Brett with Vines Rush Lawn and Landscape, and today we're going to do an overview of the warm season grasses that you're going to see here in Wilmington and southeastern North Carolina. And what I want us to get out of today is types of warm season grasses, how often we should be mowing them, do we overseed warm season grasses, and then just what best grass would to your situation. We're going to go over a publication out of NC State. It's called Carolina Lawns, A Guide to Maintaining Quality Turf in the Landscape. We're not going to go over the whole thing. I'm just going to go over the warm season grass section, just an overview of them. And so I'm going to start with what to plant. Whether you're establishing a new lawn or renovating an existing one, deciding on which type of grass to plant will be the first step. No one type of grass is best suited to all situations. So a number of factors should be considered before deciding which lawn grass to plant. Your decision should be based on the region, the climate, intended use or wear at the site, and the desired appearance. So 1, 2, 3, 4. These 5 factors are going to play into your lawn. Region, southeastern North Carolina, Wilmington, it's going to be 99.9% warm season grass. Intended use and wear at the site. So if you've got high traffic areas, Bermuda and zoysia are the only 2 grasses that you even want to think about having. So put this into perspective. If you've got a lot of kids, you've got kids that are playing in the backyard, dogs that are playing in the backyard, or you're out in the backyard, you're to have a manicured lawn, you're going to want Bermuda or zoysia. Centipede and St. Augustine is just not going to do it for you. So intended use and the wear at the site is a huge factor. And then the desired appearance. Like if you want a manicured lawn and your lawn is primarily Bahia grass, it's just not going to happen. And we're going to see why. So without further ado, let's get into the warm season grasses. These grasses in Wilmington, North Carolina, southeastern North Carolina: Bermuda, zoysia, centipede, St. Augustine, carpet, and Bahia. Except Bahia grass are mostly recommended for lawns in the Piedmont and coastal plain of North Carolina. So they don't even recommend you have Bahia grass. They grow best in the summer. They go dormant in the fall at the first heavy frost, turn brown, and then green up slowly the following spring. So we're in spring green up right now. It's March 13th. And so I want to emphasize slowly. For warm season grass to rapidly grow, the soil temperatures need to be 70 degrees. And another rule of thumb is daytime temperatures 80, nighttime temperatures 70, and that equals 150. So when the day and nighttime temperatures equal 150, your grass is actively, rapidly growing. And so slow green up. I also want to emphasize last year in 2023, everything greened up quick early in the season. And then in April, we had a hard freeze, and that set everything back. So then all that green up got kicked back, and it took to the end of May before the grass really started growing again. So that plays into lawn care. Like Mother Nature, so to speak, really has an effect on the establishment of your grass, the quality of your grass, and all those. For this reason, they usually perform better in the farther east and south you go. Warm season grasses are best planted in late spring and early summer. So when should I sod? The best time is late spring and early summer, but you can sod year round. Unlike cool season grasses, some warm season grasses must be planted either by sod or vegetative means because seeds either are not available or do not result in uniform stands. So as I go through these grasses, I'm going to stop and pause about the seeding because this publication is going to tell you what warm season grasses you can seed and what warm season grasses you can't seed. And so warm season grasses are usually seeded or planted as a single variety, monoculture, rather than blends and mixtures. So you're going to have just Bermuda, just centipedes, just St. Augustine, just zoysia primarily. Now, if you got a Heinz 57 lawn, it's just because other grass has been brought in from other lawns or whatever, and primarily one type of grass in your lawn. So without further ado, let's go to Bermuda grass. All right, Bermuda grass spreads by stolons and rhizomes. Stolons, a creeping horizontal plant stem or runner that takes root at the point along its length to form new plants. So stolons grow above ground and then tack roots into the ground. Rhizomes, a continuously growing horizontal underground stem. So rhizomes grow under the ground. Bermuda grows above the ground and under the ground. That's why it's aggressive. That's why it has a great root system. And it can invade flower beds and other areas because it has runners that spread rapidly. So Bermuda spreads rapidly. Key that's key fact about Bermuda, both above and below ground. But Bermuda grass is extremely drought tolerant, grows rapidly on any soil type. Our sandy soil is fine for Bermuda, and it makes a good turf if fertilized and mowed low and often. So that's the key to Bermuda grass, is to fertilize it and to mow low and often. Because it grows above ground, below ground, the more you mow it, the often you mow it, and the lower you mow it, the thicker that grass gets, and you're choking out weeds. Cultivar textures range from coarse to fine, and it forms a dense, durable surface when growing in full sunlight. The majority of cultivars will not tolerate shade, so Bermuda grass does not tolerate shade. So if you have full sun, this is my go-to grass. Bermuda grass is well adapted to sandy soils. Bermuda grass establishes quickly, withstands wear in traffic, and recovers rapidly from injury. Winter injury can do damage on all warm season grasses. Bermuda is going to come out of that damage the quickest. So in the spring, you've got bare spots from winter damage from the year before. Rapidly fill in versus zoysia, centipede, and St. Augustine is going to take them longer to recover. Most fine textured, high quality turf type Bermuda grasses are planted using side sprigs and plugs. So rarely do you seed Bermuda grass. Common Bermuda grass, which is most coarsely textured, can be seeded. So you can get common Bermuda, the grass seed you're going to find in the big box stores is common Bermuda grass, and it is not going to look like your finely textured, high quality hybrid grass. Several newer cultivars, however, can be seeded that have a medium texture. So do we seed Bermuda? No, because we can't get that seed, and it's going to look different than the Bermuda in your lawn. Bermuda grass should be seeded at 1 to 2 pounds per thousand. Many seed coatings, you need to go through that. Bermuda grass lawns perform best when mowed 0.75 to 1 inch using a reel mower. So if you want a well manicured lawn, you're going to need to reel mow it at 1.75 to 1 inch. Good performance can be achieved with a rotary mower, however. Blades need to be sharp and low. You need to mow as low as possible without scalping. Ground can make mowing below 1 inch difficult. For this reason, 1 to 2 inches with a rotary mower is recommended. For best results, Bermuda grass should be mowed often, at least twice per week, especially at the lower mowing heights. All right, so they suggest to mow it twice per week. It's hard for us as a company to do that, but we can. But I will say this: if you have a Bermuda lawn and you want it to be well manicured and stay green, you've got to mow it once a week. You can't get away, you can't get around it. They're telling you twice per week. The more often you mow it, the better your Bermuda is going to look. Zoysia spreads by stolons and rhizomes, above ground, below ground. It's easier to keep out of flower beds than Bermuda grass. Zoysia produces a very dense, wear-tolerant lawn that grows well in full sun and light shade. So if you got high traffic area, Bermuda is your go-to, and Zoysia is going to be your go-to. Wear-tolerant, full sun, light shade. That's keys, you know. Bermuda grass wants full sun, no shade. Zoysia grass can handle light shade. It has stiff leaves that produce very dense turf, which people often describe as feel like walking on cushion. Zoysia grass grows slower than Bermuda and thus requires less frequent mowing, but it's going to repair itself slower than Bermuda because it grows slower than Bermuda. But because the leaves are stiff, mowing can be difficult unless the mower blades are sharp. So Zoysia is harder to mow. The fine textured zoysia grass ideally should be mowed with a reel mower. So if you got a fine blade zoysia, you need to be reel mowing that also. Bermuda, all needs to be all Bermuda should be mowed with a reel mower, if not low and frequently with the rotary mower. Real fine blade zoysia, reel mowed low also. Although they can be mowed with a rotary mower, zoysia grass is very drought resistant. All right, so in the beginning, you had two cultivars, Meyer and a finer textured emerald. And these must be planted vegetatively and are low, slow growing. They're very slow to establish from plugs and often take 3 years for total coverage when planted on 12-inch centers. But in the last 20 years, a number of zoysia grass cultivars have been released. The wider blade is El Toro, Crown, Palisades, Empire, Atlantic, and Jamur. These are all coarser in texture, similar to newer tall fescues, and are quicker to establish in recovery from injury. So these are going to be quicker to establish than the older fine blade zoysias. And they're not as cold tolerant as Meyer and should not be mowed as short as Emerald and Meyer. So these you can get away with mowing higher. I would say 1.5, 2 inches, 2.5. Cavalier, Xeon, Zorro, Geo, and Leisure Time are new zoysia grass cultivars that, with a moderate growth rates, not fast growing, so that means it's slower to repair, and a fine texture similar to emerald. Cold tolerance of zoysia is not a problem in North Carolina's Piedmont coastal. So only two cultivars of zoysia grass, compadre. So Bermuda, you can only get common Bermuda, which will never match up to the Bermuda you have in your lawn. So it's going to be hard to seed, but it repairs fast. So you just push it with nitrogen. Once the grass is growing, it'll fill in. Zoysia, only two seeds you can get. So it's going to be hard to match up those seed, the grass type that's in your lawn to this right here, but push it with nitrogen once it starts growing to fill in bare areas. Don't seed, and that's why. These coarse textured zoysia grasses are typically mowed with a rotary mower. All right, centipede grass spreads by stolons, above ground only. So it's little more delicate. All right, think about this. So centipede and St. Augustine grow above ground. Zoysia and Bermuda grow below ground and above ground. So these are not going to hold up to foot traffic the way St. Augustine does. All right, so that's what Bermuda looks like. This is what Empire zoysia looks like. This is what centipede grass looks like. Thinner blade than the St. Augustine. St. Augustine's got a fat blade and then it's rounded at the top. Centipede's got a thinner blade and it goes to a point at the top. So centipede grass spreads by stolon. Centipede grass is slow growing apple green. Slow growing. So think about that coming out of dormancy. Think about that when it's trying to repair itself. Think about that when you're trying to establish a lawn. It's growing. Apple green. It shouldn't be dark green. If it's a dark green lawn, then it's over fertilized. Your centipede should be apple green. Coarsely leaved turf grass that is best used as low maintenance general purpose turf. Low maintenance. So you don't want foot traffic on it. It requires little fertilizer once established and infrequent mowing. It grows well on acidic soils with full sun to partial shade. Bermuda full sun, zoysia full sun, light shade. Centipede full sun, partial shade. So it can handle shade, but it'd rather be full sun. It does not tolerate foot traffic. So if you've got kids, dogs, if you're going to be out in the backyard a lot, centipede's not going to be your go-to grass. It's going to be zoysia or Bermuda. Compaction, high soil pH, high soil phosphorus. So if the if, and so if you got a lot of phosphorus in the soil, the centipede's not going to like it. It's going to struggle there. And once you've got phosphorus in the soil, it's always there. Excessive thatch, drought, heavy shade. So look at that. Like though it is shade tolerant, it only can handle partial shade, and it also sensitive to many common used herbicides. All right, so centipede grass is slow to establish and may take 2 to 3 years when seeded. It should be mowed when it attains 1 inch in height and no higher than 2 inches. Centipede grass can be thatchy, especially when mowed high and infrequently. So if you are fertilizing it, you want to mow it more often, like once a week versus bi-weekly, and you don't want to mow it high and infrequently because it's going to get thatch. Thatch may need to be removed every 2 to 3 years, but you got to be careful because the stems can easily be torn from the ground, leaving bare spots. So overview of centipede grass is like doesn't like traffic, doesn't like nitrogen. Get away with mowing it bi-weekly, but I would suggest weekly. And general purpose turf. So zoysia grass, high traffic. Bermuda grass, high traffic. Centipede, low traffic. St. Augustine spreads by Stallings, also, just like centipede. And here's what St. Augustine looks like: wide blade, rounded tip. Spreads by Stalin, St. Augustine is fast growing turf grass best adapted to the coastal plain. Has a medium to dark green color, very coarsely textured leaves. With proper maintenance, it'll provide a dense, lush lawn. Very shade and salt tolerant. So this is the most shade tolerant grass. Light shade for centipede, light shade for zoysia, partial shade for centipede. This is the most shade tolerant. The Raleigh cultivar has the best cold tolerance and is well adapted for eastern side of the Piedmont and the west side of the coastal plain. Seed is unavailable. That's why we don't seed St. Augustine, because you can't get it. St. Augustine grows best in fertile, well-drained soils. Because St. Augustine grass is fast growing, it needs to be mowed frequently at 2.5 to 4 inches during the growing season using a rotary mower. So all warm season grasses need to be mowed once a week. Centipede can get away with biweekly. It should never receive more than 4 pounds of nitrogen per thousand. We only put 2 down. At high rates of fertilization and irrigation, thatch will build up and cause a problem. And St. Augustine grass is not tolerant to heavy traffic, compaction, or cold weather. So if you got a high traffic area, if your backyard is high traffic, dogs, kids, you're out all in the lawn all the time. St. Augustine's not going to be your option. Centipede's not going to be your option. All right, let's go to carpet grass. Here's what it looks like. Boom. Carpet grass spreads by Stallings also above the ground. It's slow and low growing, medium green, coarsely textured. It produces low maintenance, general purpose turf. Like just like St. Augustine, general purpose turf, low maintenance, general purpose turf, just like centipede. Carpet grass resembles St. Augustine and centipede, and it's often mistaken for centipede, but it has broader leaves. It grows well, and you can see like sparser, fatter leaves than the centipede. It grows well in full sun to moderate shade and performs well in wet, shaded, acidic soils. So if you got a wet, shady area, carpet grass might work there. It grows best in full sunlight, though. All warm season grasses grow best in full sunlight. We can't stress that enough. And it does not tolerate cold, drought, salt, or traffic. It requires only 1 pound of nitrogen per thousand annually and needs to be mowed infrequently, 1.5 inches. Most of the herbicides we're putting down is going to smoke out the carpet grass that's in your centipede lawn. Bahia grass, the last grass. Then we're going to wrap it up. That's what Bahia looks like. Very sparse, grows sporadic. Seed heads pop up. So you can mow this 3 to 4 days later, those seed heads are going to pop right back up. Spreads by Stallings and rhizomes. It grows above ground and below ground. It's seldom recommended as a lawn grass because it's open canopy, unsightly seed heads, and difficulty mowing. And I want to stop and pause. If we're mowing your lawn and you got Bahia, know that it's going to be hard to make it look good because of the unsightly seed heads, and it's difficult to mow. Some parts of Bahia, look, like when you run this over with a mower, some of it's going to get mowed, some of it's not going to get mowed. It's going to look more shredded and torn than cut because it's just it's just a tough grass. Best used as a tillity turf grass where appearance is not concerned. So if you're concerned with the appearance of your lawn, if you want a well manicured lawn, Bahia is not going to be the grass for you. It's best for utility grass, roadside grass, or really roadside grass. Low maintenance is the rule. So I hope this overview gives you an idea of the warm season grasses in Wilmington. Really, the only 4 you want is Bermuda, zoysia, centipede, St. Augustine. Mow all of them weekly, maybe centipede bi-weekly. you're not doing anything else to it. If you're just mowing it, not fertilizing it or anything, centipede can get away with bi-weekly. The other three need to be mowed weekly. Zoysia, centipede, and Bermuda need to be mowed low as possible. St. Augustine needs to be mowed 2.5 to 4 inches, and we do not seed any of them because the centipede would take 2 to 3 years to form a sod. St. Augustine, they don't sell the seed. Bermuda, you can only get common Bermuda seed, which is not going to match up with the Bermuda that you have. And Zoysia, you can only get compadre and zenith, so we can't match up the Zoysia that you have. And I have never successfully seeded in southeastern North Carolina. Got any questions or we can help you out in any way, let us know.